Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
This podcast is proudly supported by Cooper's Ale House Jeps Cross and the ALH Group, Matt Hall from DR Kart South Australia, HandyPay, SA's leading personal lender, Patrizzi Course, and Tindo Solar, Australia's only solar panel manufacturer.
Troy Loeskow, welcome to Negative Camber. Mate, you're our guinea pig for this one, buddy. This is the first time we've actually endeavoured to do this in Zoom. So, if the first sort of 10 minutes of this whole project was anything to go by, mate, we might not even have this saved as an interview. So it's, but how you been anyway, bud?
Yeah, I'm good. Just basically finishing another day's work and, been pretty good.
Yeah, good. How you, where are you working at these days? I mean, what do you do as like a profession in between sort of racing and that type of thing?
So I'm an engineer. I studied engineering basically 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Working for a consultant company and part of project managing one of the wind farms that's being built up in Queensland.
Cool. Okay.
That's basically careers going in two different directions, you could call it.
Yeah. So at least you got yourself a bit of a backup career if the motor racing one doesn't always sort of fulfill its potential, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the way this whole interview is generally structured, you've heard some of the podcasts and stuff before, we generally sort of take it back to the beginning. And, the conversation kind of flows from there. So, I mean, How did you get into motor racing and who were your influences and that sort of thing?
I really got into karting, I think about 13 years ago, or about then. It doesn't seem too long, but if you put all the years together, it was a long time ago. I basically got into karting originally with my dad and my brother as, like a father-son sport.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the first 2 years, we didn't really do a whole lot of racing. We just, went out to the track when we could and just did laps, which was just fun. Like I was in the cadet class back then. Never really got to any other track within those 2 years other than the Bundaberg kart track, which I was basically my hometown.
Yep.
So basically got in as a father-son sport and something for, a family to do together to get dad away from work, stress about something else. Basically just to enjoy it.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And I mean, you've sort of worked your way up to obviously the highest level domestically in Australia with KZ2. How did the opportunity with Patrizzi Course kind of start up?
I guess throughout the years, I guess you can say moving up in the ranks. I was saying before, starting cadets, moved with juniors, then the seniors, and then I joined a team and raced in the I think it was called Pro Light class, which was using the KF motors back when they had the handheld front brakes and all that. And we did well in the first year. I think we finished third in the championship. And then after that, I won my first Australian championship in that. And the prize for winning that championship was the first time that Karting Australia did it. It was a arrive and drive package to race over in the Winter Cup in which was basically they were forming a Ricardo kart team, because that basically Ricardo kart had just started basically within that month.
Yep.
And that's when I met Michael. We raced over there. We didn't. That was my first time racing overseas, so it was a massive experience, and we did really well in practice. But yeah, probably not as good as we wanted to in the racing. But
yep.
After that, I got talking to Michael a little bit more. He was really keen to help us out. We did a KZ race in Race of Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the best track to start at your first KZ race.
Yep.
Basically can get up to 170 k's per hour on that track. But yeah, I guess the rest is history after that. I think we've been with Michael in Protrusion course for 5 years, and
yep.
Yeah, it's obviously been a really good experience.
Yeah, cool. I wouldn't mind expanding on your time in Europe. I mean, Europe's always been considered to be, the destination of choice for all people of motorsport here in Australia. How did you, you sort of mentioned the fact that it was a tough initiation. What is it about Europe that makes it so tough, for those that haven't and may not get the opportunity to race over there?
Probably the first most overwhelming thing is the amount of drivers involved. In some of the races, when you're racing over there, you might have 120 drivers.
Yeah.
And you're basically going out in the first practice session thinking that you've got to be in the top 36 to even make the final.
Wow.
That's already like a big haunting thing. Like you can't afford to even have a DNF even if you're fast, if you get what I mean. So yeah, it's 120 drivers and there's only 36 that can make the final. So that's probably the first thing. And on the other side you've got the best drivers in the world all competing, and you're looking around on the grid and you've got future Formula One stars, and basically the best of the best, because we all know that all those guys start in karting. So yeah, but yeah, it was a great experience racing over there the times that I did, and yeah.
What were the events that you probably touched on it before, and forgive me, but what were the events that you did, and what were your results and the like over there as well?
The first race that I did was the Winter Cup. I think with that one, I can't remember how many were in it. I think it was about 80 drivers, and I missed out on the final by making the final by one position, which kind of sucked a little bit. We were way faster than, especially in the dry, than where we finished. But my wet weather skills, especially back then, weren't good, and I think it was about 0 degrees, raining, and you put all that together, and I very much struggled in the heats. But yeah, that was, I guess, racing over there with that was the big eye opener point of view. Where else did I race? We did a European series in KZ. A couple of them I went pretty well. I had a couple of top 20 finishes, which, when you've got 100 drivers, I was actually really pleased with that. And probably our best result was 22nd in the world championship. I'm just trying to work out which one that was. Christiansen in Sweden.
Yeah. Okay. How does that that sort of track, how does that compare to some of the ones that we race here in Australia in terms of, is it very much a flowing track, tight, twisty, combination of both?
That track's actually pretty similar. You get some that are much faster. We've got pretty good tracks in Australia. It might be a little bit faster and a little bit more flowy in some ways, but not a whole lot different.
Yeah. Okay. Throw some questions at him, buddy.
I was just going to say, touch on what do you think was the biggest thing you learned through your racing overseas in the Europe Championships and at the World Titles that you got to bring back to Australia and start to put to work to, forge your dominance on the KZ class here?
Probably the main thing is when you're racing over there and there's that many people, every millisecond or thousandths of a second that you can get in terms of speed can mean a lot of positions. So really honing on your driving. You might have teammates that you really got to analyze their data so you can see where you can get faster and all that. If you're racing in a class, at a club day with 10 drivers, you could probably still get a podium when you're 2/10 off the pace. But if you're racing in Europe, if you're 2/10 off the pace, like you might not even make the final, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I guess so. The main thing out of that is just, literally just trying to drive as perfect as you can and try and maximize every bit of speed that you've got in the kart and the motor.
Yeah. Tell us about, I guess, I suppose we'll touch on maybe the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, reigning national champion, and congrats to you. And it's become, I guess, the trademark to see the Ricciardo kart with the green plate. But you'd say that really these two championship campaigns have really been punctuated by COVID and that type of thing as well. So there hasn't really been that continuity, I mean, last year's title, obviously, but that was your first mate, like your AKC title, I believe. Talk to us about that season and how do you reflect on that looking back?
Last year was a bit of unfortunate. We probably we actually managed to secure the championship in the rounds that were available. Though it was originally going to be best out of 3, and we were able to secure it after 2 rounds, which, like, for us was a massive achievement. And it didn't end up. I still call it a national championship, but I completely agree that it's not really valid, and with the circumstances that there was. But to be honest, like when you have to take so much time away from racing and the hobby and basically what you used to, every race and the level of competition that we had, we were very fortunate for. So because we went probably really like 6 months or something without any competitive racing, and that's the longest time I've had in probably 10 years or something out of the sport. On that side it was really good to actually do the races that you could. Obviously the guys in some regions of Australia didn't have that opportunity, and that's where it sucked a little bit. We were just fortunate.
It got the championship came to you quite quickly last season, but it's been quite different this season from the round so far. From my memory, you haven't really gone out and dominated a round, so to speak. You seem to be on the back foot and then come good sort of towards the end of the meeting. Have you been playing around with looking after tyre life or anything like that? Or what's changed in this season to be not quite so dominant, but still there when it matters at the points?
I'm definitely not playing any games. Like it's I strongly think the level of competition this year's stepped up. Like in the last round in Adelaide, like Henry Johnson was just fast. Like he was fast all weekend. And every single session we were just coming in like, what do we change so we can get from P2 to P1? Just because just that big gap. We also had Denton that was really fast, Josh Denton, and then a couple of other guys. Basically after every session, after every race, we were scratching our heads on where we can get faster. We made a change in the final. It wasn't huge, but I think, to be honest, our kart, the way we've got it set up, is just really good in the longer races. It's shown it in Ipswich a little bit, Todd Road. We struggled all through the heats, but came good in the final. Adelaide, in Boa, we struggled through it all the heats, but came good in the final. It's just it's a little bit annoying, but at the end of the day, it's where we show our speed, which kind of got to maximize, which we have so far in this championship, which is good. So it's all starting well.
We can touch on Adelaide in a sec, because, as you know, there was a lot of man love coming my way after that pass in the final. But I guess I'm curious to know for our listeners that are not too familiar with the KZ. Obviously, it's a 6-speed shifter. Describe what it's like to drive.
Probably the biggest thing from going from other classes is just you'd say that it's much faster, but it's much more rapid to drive. If you get what I mean. Like, there's gear changes and all that playing into account. There's front brakes and all that. When you're racing in the thick of it, and you might have a train of about 5 karts, you can't afford to miss a gear or anything like that. If someone passes you, you've got to adjust to that. So it's hard physically to drive the kart with how fast it is, but it's also hard mentally as well. Like, if I'm catching up to someone and I'm going to make a move, like, I might have to completely adjust what gear I'm in or how I take the corner just to pass it. And you've got to think of what you're going to do in the next 2 to 3 corners afterwards. Just because how the kart's set up, it's just way different. I remember a couple of times when I first started out in KZ, I was doing 2 different classes. I think it was X30 and then also KZ, and people were just confused with how do you jump in from one to another. To me, that was just a completely different sport. Like, X30, you jump in and just, you brake hard and all that, but everything's about being smooth. Where you jump in the KZ, it's just so fast paced. You dive into corners, get a turn, and you try and get on throttle as quick as possible when the kart's straight. It's just completely different. And you've got to have a mindset like that as well.
Yeah, it's the biggest difference I think you can is when you see it visually live. Like the lines, for example, at Bolivar, that left-hand sweeper, which is the last corner, the KZ drivers were almost taking it and like they were almost sort of, triangulating the apex. So you'd come out and then turn a sharp left, and the direction of the kart would almost be in a triangular kind of direction.
Yeah.
Whereas with the single speed karts, it was more of just a giant arc, a completely different line and driving style required. But still fast all the same. So yeah, definitely get what you mean on that front as well. From a physical standpoint of view, how do you prepare for it?
I try to go to gym a couple of times a week. And lately I've been doing a lot of running. Like, you may have saw last weekend, I did a marathon here in Brisbane, and then 3 weeks before that, I did a half marathon in Melbourne. A lot of the drivers and I used to play squash. Basically anything that you can do to, you want to have some strength to obviously steer the kart, but then you've also got to have the cardio side, the fitness, the ability to stay calm and with a lowered heart rate when shit starts getting real in a race.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
That
Yeah.
ability to keep you cool under pressure showed the last two laps at Bolivar. Talk us through setting up that last lap pass on Henry and how it felt when it came off around the outside into the sweeper there.
Oh yeah, that moment's probably one of the best I've had in my career.
Damn straight it was.
Yeah, like yeah, and we probably struggled a little bit with pace that whole race. Henry had a lot of pace, and I was trying my best, but just everything I was doing, I just wasn't catching him, which was very hard. Bit of a mental thing, but just got to stay in the game, right? So I noticed with about probably 8 laps to go that I was just starting to catch him. And I stayed focused. I started seeing that where he was maybe where I was a little bit faster, and that's where I started planning if I did catch him to see where I could make a move. I noticed I always had a better run coming onto the main straight, so that was possibly my best passing opportunity. But with 2 laps to go, when I was in the best position, I just noticed that I couldn't make that move. Like I was just too far away, and we probably all know my incident in heat 3 where I locked the front brakes and went off the track. I just didn't really want to throw it away. It was a good position where I was in second. I noticed on the second last lap, he made a couple of mistakes, and I started catching up to him. And then on the last lap, I probably wasn't close enough to really pass, and then he went a little bit defensive in one of the earlier corners, which made me catch up, and I got a really good run coming down the back straight. And I was actually planning a move at that point. He went defensive, which was rightly so, and basically I did all I could do, and I tried opening up that corner when he went defensive, and that gave me a really good run into the next part, which I would have been able to pass into the next corner, but he positioned the kart well to go to defensive. So I went out wide and opened up that corner, and basically, it just came together that I just had a better run on that corner and managed to, you could say, undercut it on that corner. So I guess that it was just really just keeping cool and just trying to work out where I could position the car.
It was a fantastic move, especially out by that stage of the weekend. It was all tire marble and junk and stuff on that outside as well. Probably the best pass you've ever done, you'd say?
Yeah, probably. I think the pass was more done on the corner before when I had the better run, but that part, it was just, knowing the condition of your tires and all that, and hopefully having a little bit of faith that if you did go on the marbles that you weren't just going to slide off the track, because at that point it was a long race, it was a long weekend. I didn't want to throw away a second place as well. So I gave respect to Henry, and he fortunately gave me respect as well. And I think just with that better run out of that last corner, that second last corner, I was just able to hold it around the outside. And that's basically how I got it done. But it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed over the weekend was, I guess the longer the weekend went, the more aggressive I probably could say, in terms of your you're driving, but not aggressive as in like driving, drop others off the track. Like I found that the start on the Sunday where you launched off the line, left everyone for dead, and then probably went too hot into that first corner and beached it. It seemed like when you were starting in that final, that come hell or high water, you were going to make up positions. It just the body language. It's hard to describe, but I could just say body language as the kart launched off the line, and you were going to make positions up no matter what happened going to that first corner. I mean, that's a big shift in mindset between the heats, because it's like, well, I've fucked it once, right? There's every chance I'm going to make a meal of it again, but you didn't. It was almost the opposite. Was that something that you consciously did, or was it more instinctive, or did you kind of just draw a line in the sand and say, right, I've got to do or die now?
Yeah, I guess the latter. I guess when in previous years of so the previous year, I always had that pace up my sleeve. So if I lost like one or two spots in the start, especially with the longer race, I knew that I was able to make it up. But in that race, I knew that starting off in 6th or 7th or wherever I was, I didn't have any time to, drop back and let the front two get a 10-second lead. I was just really keen to try and make as much ground as I could at the start. That definitely made the race easier.
Yeah. Describe what it's like racing for the Patrizzi course team. I mean, they're probably considered to be, you'd almost call them the Mercedes-Benz of the AKC. In reality, like, you're always going to be sort of top 3, top 4 pace-wise, guaranteed for each meet, and always considered to be the team to beat. But how would you describe working in the team and what it's like driving and working with Michael?
Well, I've been in the team for about 5 years. If I guess that shows that I really enjoyed being in the team. We've had some really good results. I've learned a lot in the start, and we've been able to maintain it. But I really enjoy the team environment. Even Trent and Luke in the team, like I regularly like playing golf with them on the weekends. Something else, like we talk about karting or talk about whatever. And then Michael, I've had a good relationship with for multiple years. Like, he's been he's been helping my career and all that. And I kind of hope I've made his product look good as well. So at the end of the day, we're in a team. We're all trying to go well, and what's the saying? We win as a team, we lose as a team. We've had our highs and lows. Michael, anyone in the karting world would know that he's probably the most passionate person about the sport. Yep. Sometimes but for me, it's been a good thing. Sometimes it's it can maybe seen as a negative, but I always think that he's got the best intentions, and it's been really good being in that environment.
Yeah, he's definitely intense. I was watching the qualifying session with at Bolivar on the Saturday, and we were right next to each other, and he had to stop watching his hand, and it was just intense, and then obviously, you'd got third, I think it was, on the grid, and he felt that it should have been pole, but it was just that intensity, and that and the passion that came out, and it was there for all to see, So definitely, it's the sort of you'd go into battle with that person, and then that he's got your back at the other end as well. Probably wouldn't have liked to go past the pit after the Sunday sand trap incident, though. That would have been good fun. But,
oh man,
yeah.
Yeah, I was so annoyed at that, and like I didn't even want to look at Michael after I made that mistake. Like that's I haven't made a mistake like that in many years. But the one thing that's surprised me a lot, and I've got a lot of respect for Michael afterwards. He just came up to me and just said, there's a bugger. Like that happens. Like he said that he's made the same mistake multiple times, like with the karting or supercars and all that. And I guess that was a big thing for me to just shrug it off and start again.
We've all been there.
especially
We've stood on our own ends many times.
Yeah, especially going to that corner, mate. It's been tricky. So yeah,
I think it's confirmed though. You guys obviously have some sort of magic button on the steering wheel for heating up your tires, like Hamilton, right? And you forgot to turn it off, and that's why you locked the front brakes.
Exactly. Except I can never seem to be fast at the start, so there's no magic going there.
There's definitely one characteristic I've noticed about the Patrizzi course karts is they're very much, and I've sort of discussed this at length with Trent offline, is how they're very much a kart that's very good on the bottom end. So the drive out of the corner from like on the torque curve is probably better than any other kart on the track. And it's almost like your advantage, really. Not only tire life, but also that bottom end drive that other teams, in terms of tuners and stuff, can't make. Would you say that would be the case, or other factors as well?
Yes and no. Sometimes it may look like may have more horsepower or something like that, but from the start, Michael's really taught me a lot of tips on how to drive a KZ. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's how to basically want to get to the apex as fast as possible and leave as straight and as quick as possible. So getting that exit can sometimes well and getting onto the throttle when the cart's straight, that's critical to obviously get a jump out of the corner. So that's the way that I try and drive, and that's the way I try and set up my car. If it's stepping out in the rear, I'm not happy with that. So we'll try and make a change in practice, and it should look good for the races then. I definitely don't think that we've got the worst motors in the field.
No.
Michael, Michael and the team put a lot of effort in the motors, that's one of the things which makes us fast as well. In the off season when I'm working at my day job, they're still, that's when the maintenance happens and all that. So this year, just by observation, I think a lot of the front group, we've all seem to have close equipment, and that kind of shows in the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you guys sort of testing quite regularly? I know you're racing a lot locally over in Queensland. I think you had a race meet on the weekend as well. Is there time for sort of just individual testing, or are you just more regular race meets now in the KZ class?
I'm actually hardly ever in the kart. It sucks a little bit. Life kind of takes over. We always try to aim to get do one test day, or at least one test day before each round. A lot of that's just getting the cobwebs off and just trying to get back into the zone. This year we've been lucky with the KZ series in Queensland. Like that will be our testing, and that will be my time in the kart away from the the national series, which has been good, and we've enjoyed it as well. Enjoyed the competition at the club days, really.
At least you've got a KZ culture down there. I mean, we don't really, here in South Australia, it's mainly sort of tag 125 and restricted from a two-stroke perspective at a senior level. To my knowledge, there's not really a strong KZ culture at all, which is a bit of a pity, actually, because, you know, I think they're definitely an exciting class. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, well, this year, Michael's had the Patrizzi course series going on I think we had 2 rounds in Ipswich, and then we've had 2 rounds in Warwick. And the level of competition there is on par with the AKC. We've had a few new guys join it that have had KZs so got the KZs in this in the Brisbane area, and the amount they've improved by, I guess, seeing the level and all that's been crazy. But yeah, I've never struggled so much at club days before. The level of competition's crazy. We raced on the weekend in Warwick, and the whole weekend we were chasing Taylor. She was just so fast, which is good to see. I prefer to win, but it's great to see that, you know, there was that level of competition. And at the end of the day, that's why I do the sport, for the fun of it too, and, you know, trying to chase those extra tenths.
I don't know, mate. You're wanting to start the campaign of bringing back the Repechage. I reckon we should start the KZs down here.
Yeah, you can bring back the KZs, and hopefully there's enough to run the Repechage.
Yeah, exactly. We Leigh's
close.
More
and more every round.
Yeah, exactly. Do they run Repechage formats over in Europe? Sounds like they would have.
Don't think so anymore. I've never actually been in a Repechage before. It's mainly just you go do qualifying, you get split up into your groups, and you do your heats, and then it's the top points that make the final. And if you don't, unfortunately, you watch the final.
Yeah, they've almost brought back the Repechage style with pre-final A and pre-final B. You can still start pre-final A pole. If you get shunted off the first corner, you're not going to race the finals. So it's almost like a Repechage, but not quite send you home straight after qualifying, which is okay.
Yeah.
Where to next, mate? You seal another Australian title. That's, you know, back to back potentially. I'm not going to put the commentator's curse on you just yet. But where to for you in your motor racing career? Have you got aspirations to go, beyond karting now?
I don't really know. Like, I enjoyed doing karting, and but the passion's still there. I'm getting, like, I'd love to, move up into the ranks and all that, but growing up, we tried, but it's just, I guess the budget wasn't there, unfortunately, in the sport. That's one of the main driving factors. But we'll keep trying if the opportunities come there. Like, I've had a couple of drives in a Formula 4 and a Porsche, but all by just doing well in karting, which has been awesome. Right now I love what I do, and I love the level of competition in karting and how challenging it is, and that's basically my hobby.
Yeah, fair enough. And your dad's, and I think is seriously invested in the team. Like, he's there on the tools doing his thing. I don't know who had the more furrowed brow when I left the team tent at Bolivar on Saturday night, whether it was yourself or your dad. But looking at the go-kart. But how much of an influence, how much of assistance do your parents still play in your racing?
Oh, a massive amount. If they weren't involved, I wouldn't be racing. Like, my dad's probably, like, he's the hardest worker that I know. He's he's flat out like he runs an irrigation business and he also runs a macadamia farm. So he's always flat out. And one would think that doing karting and all that, the amount of time he invests in this as well, it's just adding another level of stress. But I just love how passionate he is about the sport, and my mum as well. The amount of support that they give me, it's like, we're competing at the top level of Australia, and we're in a race team and all that. But I've still got the support of my family, which is awesome. Like, dad's still on the tools. I've got my mechanic there, brother, which helps out as well, as the main mechanic. But I wouldn't be involved if it wasn't for my parents' support. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't want to be involved, because that's one of the main things that I enjoy, because we have I regularly tell people that we don't always just rock up and be fast. People see results and might have like a couple of dominant rounds, but in practice we might rock up and we'll be nowhere. And we somehow work out what to change, whether it be an axle or just completely flip the kart upside down. And all that work is just us discussing on how to change the kart to basically get to the level that we should be. And when you come to a track and you're not there, but you do make a change and you do get there, that's the type of weekends that I love. And I make those decisions with dad, and then also with the team, and that's what I enjoy. If things don't go well, we work out between the rounds on how to go, what to change and what we can do. And that's all those decisions get made within the team, which has my parents involved as well.
Yeah. What about in terms of other forms of motorsport? You're more of a V8 supercar fan, Formula One, MotoGP. What's your thing?
Big fan of Formula One, especially this year. I went a couple of years with the Mercedes dominance. I think, like everyone, a bit over watching, and you're always going to have Mercedes winning. But this year, you don't know who's going to win, really. So I love watching that. Staying up to ridiculous hours of the night to watch those events. And I've always watched followed the supercars, and what else? Not so much MotoGP. I don't know why. Probably just don't have enough time in my life, really. But if I've watched, I regularly follow other motorsport, which is what I love.
You got a hero or like an idol that you look up to from any of those sort of levels of motorsport?
Got multiple heroes. I guess being a Ricardo kart, you've got Daniel Ricciardo. It'd be awesome to be at his level. But then, as I was starting out as a kid, from Bundy, I had Kel Tressida, who's won multiple national championships. Kian Fothergill as well was in his team. Looked up to him, and that basically all my heroes in sport.
Cool, excellent.
And
Any more questions on the fire?
No, I can't think of anything else I've got to ask. I find it interesting that you could have picked anyone in motorsport, but you picked three karters. Do you follow anyone else in motorsport? Was there any idols from sort of Formula One or their supercars when you were growing up, or you just all the guys that you looked up to were the guys that you were racing and aspiring to be like at the go-kart track?
Well, I said Daniel Ricciardo, but I guess yeah, I said the guys that I try to relate to the most.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, it's mainly those guys. Yeah, I always followed what Michael was doing when he was racing as well. So looking up to him, and that was one of the contributing factors of, I was so keen to get into that team.
Yeah, it's funny, you don't actually understand let's call ourselves seniors, but the impact that the actions of seniors have on the younger brigade. We've taken on board here through the Ferrari club that I run, Ocean, who's going to be sort of in our marquee on the local events here in South Australia, and then obviously racing with you guys on the AKC level. But one of the things that we're trying to sort of do as a team is be role models, but in a positive way in terms of how we conduct ourselves off the track, because that influence is going to carry them later on. It's funny how that actually happens and the impact that they have on people like yourself later on down the line.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the weirdest thing when you're you've got your heroes, but then you end up racing them eventually. That's probably the weirdest thing for me. Like I was saying, when I was starting out, Kel Tressiter and Kian were my heroes, but then a couple of years later, I'm on the grid right next to them. That's a weird thing. But that I guess that's the cool thing about karting.
Yeah, it's probably one of the sports where you've got that access to the people that you look up to, but then you also get to race them and then understand and see from a competitor standpoint just what makes them so good. It's like Numbnuts here next to me. It's trying to follow him. He leaves me for dead because there's probably 30 kilos difference between the two of us, but I still study his lines and to try and make myself faster, because when you aspire to be that good, you want to be like Mike, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that you got to. That's the measuring stick, and you're only going to get better if you aim yourself at that level.
Yep, exactly. Even if I'm not satisfied if I'm second, I always look to be the fastest, and that's the ultimate goal of the sport, right?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. We finally got to get a good chunk of time with you. So look, thanks for obviously listening in on the podcast too. I know that your support's been pretty cool, and no doubt we'll catch up at some point later on in the year again. Any plans to come back into SA at some point with the team or by yourself?
I'm not too sure. Probably not this year, but next year seems to come around pretty quick.
Well, I know the team's going to be coming down for the Ultimate Club Driver at Monado later this year, so maybe jump on the truck. There'll be another box of Peronis waiting for you guys as well. Keep up with the tradition. So, if you do come down, mate, look forward to having you down there again and catching up.
Yep, no worries. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
No worries, mate.
Thanks,
Troy. Good luck for the rest of the season too, buddy.
All good. Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Yeah.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.